Several years ago, a poll was conducted that found only 16% of people believe that Jeffrey Epstein actually took his own life. Epstein, of course, the controversial pedophile and financier who was found dead in his jail cell. Well, new revelations are coming to light. The Wall Street Journal reports Jeffrey Epstein appeared to threaten Bill Gates over Microsoft co-founder's affair with Russian bridge player. A lot of powerful people were associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein apparently had a large clientele list. That list has not been released. Ghislaine Maxwell, his second in command, is in prison. But all the pieces are starting to come together with this story from the Wall Street Journal that I say, in my opinion, confirms the Epstein conspiracy theory. I know it's just a tiny morsel of the evidence that we seek, but I think it's very, very big. To put it simply, Jeffrey Epstein was accused by many people, or was believed by many people, that he would blackmail powerful individuals to gain money and power. And it appears that's what he was trying to do in this instance with Bill Gates, which we'll get into in just a second. But I wonder if Jeffrey Epstein was able to build up his empire in the way most people believe he did, that he would get compromising information on an individual, pressure them into doing a favor for him, and one step at a time, that was the method by which he gained massive amounts of wealth. I believe around $600 million to his name, but who knows about what else he controlled. And then sure enough, one day he turns up dead. But not just that one day. There was actually an incident before that. Before that, he was in a jail cell found in the fetal position with marks around his neck, and many people believed that his cellmate attempted to end him. But they say, according to the news, a probe found that there was no wrongdoing here, and that this was just Epstein trying to take his own life. The cameras cut out. The guards fell asleep. And then for the first time in 14 years, a man died in the Metropolitan Correctional Center. I believe MCC, I believe it's called. So no, nobody believes that the guy who is widely believed to have been blackmailing the most powerful people in the world one day just decided he would end his own life. Nobody believes it. But this story right here, well, I said, may be a tiny morsel. I think it is the keyhole through which we peer through and see inside. The conspiracy theory is likely true. Epstein was likely doing this. Let's read the story and get a view into what he had done. The Wall Street Journal says, Jeffrey Epstein appeared to threaten Bill Gates over Microsoft co-founder's affair with Russian bridge player. Epstein discovered that Bill Gates had an affair with a Russian bridge player and later appeared to use his knowledge to threaten one of the world's richest men, according to people familiar with the matter. And I believe, too, that Bill Gates split up from his wife. I wonder if this all plays a role. The Microsoft co-founder met the woman around 2010 when she was in her 20s. Epstein met her in 2013 and later paid for her to attend software coding school. In 2017, Epstein emailed Gates and asked to be reimbursed for the cost of the course, according to people familiar with the matter. Well, if you believe the Wall Street Journal's sources, then we can believe this story, but take it all with a grain of salt. But I'll say this. The general idea is that for no reason, Epstein contacts Bill Gates and says, remember this young woman? Can you pay me back for the coding courses that I paid for? Now, why would that make sense? Why would someone completely unrelated to the circumstance? Because he's basically saying, you're going to give me money because I know about this young woman. They're going to say the email came after the convicted sex offender had struggled and failed to persuade Gates to participate in a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund that Epstein tried to establish with J.P. Morgan Chase. The implication behind the message, according to people who have viewed it, was that Epstein could reveal the affair if Gates didn't keep up an association between the two men. Quote, Mr. Gates met with Epstein solely for philanthropic purposes. Having failed repeatedly to draw Mr. Gates beyond these matters, Epstein tried unsuccessfully to leverage a past relationship to threaten Mr. Gates, said a spokeswoman for Gates. It's unfortunate that this young bridge player is getting dragged into all this right now. And now the information that was being leveraged against Bill Gates is being revealed. And I don't care about a person hooking up with another person. I mean, if he's cheating on his wife, that's between his family and all that stuff. But simply put, Simply put. Bill Gates meets with Epstein. Epstein says, I want money. Bill Gates says no. Epstein then abruptly emails Bill Gates and says, why don't you just pay me back for the software coding lessons of this young woman? And how did he know about that? The implication was clear. Epstein was accused in 2006 of sexually abusing girls as young as 14 and pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He spent time in a Florida jail and registered as a sex offender. After the Miami Herald reported on dozens more women who said they were abused, he was arrested in 2019 on sex trafficking charges. He died later that year in jail while awaiting trial in what the medical examiner ruled was a suicide. Gates, 67 years old, a technology advisor for Microsoft and one of the largest shareholders, said he met with Epstein a few times only to discuss philanthropy, which he regrets and calls a mistake. Let's play a little clip of what Bill Gates had to say about this.
And that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful. I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. Very proud of the work of the foundation.
I find that very strange. As many people did when this video came out. The date on this video is from 1 year ago, September 21st. And he says, well, he's dead. Why did he say that? He was asked, is there a lesson here? And he says, well, he's dead. And then the other thing I noticed, and this is just my opinion, and maybe it's meaningless, but Bill Gates is smiling.
And, I've said I regretted having those dinners.
He smiles.
Absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else?
He's not smiling now.
Looking at this?
Well, he's dead. So, in general, you always have to be careful.
He almost laughs. Now he's smiling. He's dead. You always have to be careful.
And
he's very happy.
I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. Very proud of the work of the foundation.
I bet Bill Gates was very mad that he was being asked these questions. But let's talk about this young woman at the center of the Bill Gates allegations. I think there's more to it. They say Mila Antonova, the Russian bridge player, declined to comment on Gates and said she didn't know who Epstein was when they met. I had no idea that he was a criminal or had any ulterior motive. I just thought he was a successful businessman and wanted to help. I am disgusted with Epstein and what he did. Interesting. The new details about Epstein and Gates reveal a layer of complexity to their relationship and shed new light on how Epstein operated. In the years between his 2008 conviction and death, Epstein packed his days meeting with politicians, businessmen, academics, and celebrities. He provided favors and sought to use the connections for his own purposes. And when the relationship soured, he could turn against people. Gates, with a net worth in excess of $100 billion and one of the world's biggest philanthropists, was among the most well-known names in Epstein's calendar. Perhaps it's this. The question, I suppose, for a lot of people is, was Epstein the ringleader or was he the puppet? Some people believe that Epstein was not the ringleader. Some think Ghislaine Maxwell may have been because she's more well-connected. Her family is wealthy and Epstein was like a high school teacher or something. Or perhaps it really was just Epstein. I honestly don't know. You guys can comment. Let me know what you think. Was there someone behind the curtain, or was it just Epstein playing hardball with politicians and collecting information and trying to control them? I would probably lean towards there was something more, and there's someone else. Because what would Epstein seek to gain? Why would he do these? It just doesn't seem some high school teacher turned financier who starts blackmailing powerful individuals. If you were attempting to blackmail powerful individuals, would you do it yourself? It reminds me of that scene from The Dark Knight when the accountant meets with I can't remember the guy's name, Morgan Freeman, the character. He meets with him and he says, he's like, what are you building for him now? I want $1 million a year for the rest of my life and blah, blah, blah. And then Morgan Freeman says, so let me get this straight. You believe that your client, one of the most powerful and wealthiest men in the world, is secretly a vigilante who beats criminals to a pulp in the dead of night, and your intention is to blackmail this person? Good luck. That's like that scene. You know, if you were Jeffrey Epstein and you wanted to blackmail Bill Gates, does that make a whole lot of sense to you? You're some dude, just some guy who was a fraction of the net worth of someone like Bill Gates, and you want to go up against every single powerful governmental individual and politician and try and blackmail them. No wonder he had a private island. He couldn't set foot in a major city, most likely. They'd probably, something would happen. He'd get quote unquote mugged. Unless there was someone else behind the curtain and he was just the messenger. And maybe that someone else behind the curtain we don't even realize was removed from the picture. And after that person fell, Epstein was next. Now, I don't know for sure. I'm just saying. I'm speculating. They say, starting in 2011, Gates had more than half a dozen meetings scheduled with Epstein, including dinners at Epstein's New York townhouse, documents show. Now, I want to point this out, too. I don't like Bill Gates. I don't trust Bill Gates. But, hey, man, look, I meet a lot of people, too. And I don't like this guilt by association. Give me the evidence. OK, I think Bill Gates, creepy dude. But I also remember when Jordan Peterson went to an event and someone said, "Can I get a picture with you, Dr. Peterson?" And he said, "Sure." And the person unfurled a Keck flag in front of him, and Peterson just smiled. He had no idea what they were doing. And everyone said, "Aha, look, here's him with a Keck flag. He's far right," or something like that. You get an invitation from somebody. I've gone to dinners. I've had politicians be like, "We've got property if you ever want to visit." I've gone to congressional offices. What if it turns out one of these guys is a criminal? What am I going to say? I wouldn't play the game that Bill Gates did. To be completely honest. Look, if someone came to me and said, "You once went to, you had several meetings with this individual who turned to be a really bad person," I'd be like, I don't know. That it happens. What am I supposed to do? Know the secret lives of every criminal? Dude, get out of here. I don't play those games. It may turn out that your neighbor has been like beating dogs, in the woods or something. And then people are going to be like, he lives next to you and you hang out with him. And you're like, I had no idea he was doing this. That being said, Bill Gates, I don't think is a good person. So the amount of benefit of the doubt that he gets from me is rather low. My point is simply innocent until proven guilty. That being said, when Bill Gates started smiling, when he said, "Well, he's dead. So, I'm very proud of the work that we've done. You got to be careful." What did he mean by that? You got to be careful. You got to be careful. What does that mean? Well, he's dead. So you got to be careful. Was he smiling? Because the real message he was conveying was, the lesson here for all of you is be careful when you threaten me. Look, if Epstein really was just some dumb guy trying to blackmail people and it was working out for some time, sooner or later, the bill comes due. There are people who are going to come after you. With Bill Gates' wife leaving him, I wonder if she found out Epstein had something to do with it. Because look, Bill Gates apparently said no to this. And if that's the case, maybe Epstein followed through. Because what's a threat if it's hollow? If Epstein's looking at this saying, like, if I don't reveal this, people are not going to believe me on any of these other issues. So he might be thinking, well, if I can't get Bill Gates, at least I can use him to make an example for anybody who would defy me. Who knows? They say the same month, two men met in France with an official on the Nobel Prize Committee, spent much of the day together. Gates has said he learned to play bridge from his parents, and the card game became one of his favorite hobbies. Gates played with Antonova, another devotee of the game. She attended a university in Russia between 2000 and 2005, according to her LinkedIn profile. She later founded a bridge club in the U.S. before taking on several roles as a software engineer in the Bay Area, her LinkedIn profile shows. In a video posted online in 2010, Antonova talked about meeting Gates at a bridge tournament and playing against the former Microsoft co-founder. "I didn't beat him, but I tried to kick him with my leg," she said in the video. There she is. This young woman met Bill Gates. Antonova had an idea to start an online business to teach people how to play bridge. Yada, yada, yada. Boris Nikolachik, a Gates confidant and top science advisor at the time, who also knew Epstein, introduced Antonova to Epstein to help her raise funds. Nikolachik said when he first met Epstein, it was in the capacity of Gates' scientific advisor, et cetera, et cetera. Antonova and Nikolic met Epstein at Epstein's townhouse in November 2013, where she presented her proposal to Epstein, who provided feedback, documents show. She was looking to raise $500,000 for the venture, which she called Bridge Planet. Its mission was to promote bridge by creating quality tutorials for beginners and advanced players. On November 9th, Antonova wrote an email to thank Epstein for the meeting and reviewing the proposal. Epstein ultimately didn't invest in the project, Antonova said. The next year, November 2014, Antonova stayed briefly in an apartment in New York City provided by Epstein. I didn't interact with him or anyone else while there. All right. Now, I don't know nothing about this Antonova lady, and far be it from me to besmirch her good name. I just find it odd that Epstein would be like, let me give you these things for no reason. Let us have a private meeting. And then, sure, here's an apartment you can stay at. Now, it's entirely possible Epstein trying to meet with Antonova and giving her an apartment was not because she exchanged any favors with him. It could be that she exchanged information for which he was very grateful. Or it could simply be that this is how he cultivates sources. So if you're someone like Epstein, and again, my point is this, we don't know that Antonova did anything wrong or even knew anything was going on. I'm not saying that she in any way had any relations or exchanges with Epstein. Epstein may have been providing her the apartment because he's trying to get things from her. I will say this. Somehow, Epstein appears to have found out about the affair. So it would seem to me that likely what happened was when Antonova was hanging out with Epstein, they talked, they laughed, they had drinks, and he mentioned some names, fished for information, knew that she knew Bill Gates, knew how they met, and probably thought, I bet there's something here. She then mentions something, and he says, okay. Now, maybe Bill Gates never even had an affair with Antonova. Maybe it was a lie. Maybe the real threat was when Epstein messages Bill Gates, he's effectively saying, I'll make the claim anyway. And what can you do about it? I don't know about Antonova. I guess apparently they did have an affair. I mean, whatever. They say after she failed to secure funding for Bridge Planet, she decided to become a software programmer and asked several people to lend her money for a programming boot camp. Epstein agreed to pay, and he paid directly to the school. Nothing was exchanged. I don't know why he did that. When I asked, he said something like he was wealthy and wanted to help people when he could. Maybe he was cultivating a source. Maybe he wanted more information from her. Or maybe she gave him one or two things. Maybe the one thing she gave him was information on Bill Gates. Maybe the other thing she gave him was a good time. I don't know. I'm not trying to besmirch, as I said, the good name of this young woman who's running a Bridge Planet thing. And, you know, I think a lot of people may draw those conclusions. While he was meeting with Gates, Epstein also had multiple meetings scheduled with other people close to Gates, including Nikolic. I'm saying that's wrong. It's Nikolic. Former Microsoft executive Nathan Myhrvold and Gates Foundation staffer Melanie Walker, the documents show. Mr. Epstein was a regular at TED conferences, and he was a large donor to basic scientific research. That is how and why Nathan knew him, and that's exactly where their association ends. I should never have associated with him, and now I am thankful that he never invested in my endeavors. Nikolic, there you go. Why was I adding an extra O there? Nikolic. A spokesman for Miss Walker declined to comment on her meetings with Epstein. At the time, Epstein was trying to set up a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund with JP Morgan that would potentially pool money from some of the world's wealthiest people. Epstein proposed that JP Morgan set up the fund with a minimum $100 million contribution per individual and pay him millions of dollars in fees, the document shows. In addition to the fees, the disgraced financier saw the fund as a way to rehabilitate his reputation, according to the people he told of his thinking. It hinged on securing support from Gates, the documents show. So I wonder. When it came to Epstein's death, in this story from Insider, they say almost half of Americans now believe the conspiracy theory that sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. They say that 45% of Americans baselessly believe that Epstein was murdered, according to a new poll. Baselessly? That's up from 34%. Only 16% believe he died by suicide. So how about you run a much better headline, my friends? How about you say 84% of people either don't know or think Epstein was murdered? How about that for a headline? In the death of Jeffrey Epstein Wikipedia page, we get this. Discrepancies. Epstein's death was the first death ruled a suicide at the MCC in 14 years. Michael Baden and 60 Minutes questioned whether Epstein, who was almost 6 feet tall and weighed 185 pounds, could have been able to hang himself from the lower bunk. Photos taken after the death also show bottles and medicine standing upright on the top bunk. Baden also questioned why Epstein did not use other materials available in his cell as a ligature, such as wires and tubing from a sleep apnea machine, which were stronger and longer. They say a psychological reconstruction report of Epstein's death compiled by the Bureau of Prisons 5 weeks after his death suggests Epstein's identity appeared to be based on his wealth, power, and association with other high-profile individuals. The report further attributes his suicide to lack of significant interpersonal connections, loss of status, and the idea of potentially spending the rest of his life in prison. I don't believe it. I think you'd be silly to think that all of these things come together. Now, some people think he faked his death or whatever. I don't know about all that. If he did fake his death, I doubt Ghislaine Maxwell would be in prison right now. No, I think the most likely scenario is if you're blackmailing powerful, wealthy politicians and billionaires, it's only a matter of time. You can't keep yourself safe. But who knows? We don't know yet. What we do know is this morsel of evidence suggests Epstein was, in fact, blackmailing powerful individuals, at the very least Bill Gates. And if it was just Bill Gates, maybe that's enough. Maybe that's why Bill Gates laughed and said, well, he's dead now, so you got to be careful. Sounds almost like he's saying, you screw with me and you die. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving Bill Gates too much credit. Maybe he's just some really rich dude and that's about it. But who knows? I don't. Somebody out there probably does. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all shortly.